Daniel Black joining us from Bulldog Blitz. Check out his work right there covering Mississippi State athletics. And, of course, we talk football nonstop here at Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. Discussion, debate, and analysis. That's what we do each day. So please like the video and, of course, comment below on what you think the Bulldogs are going to do this year. Let's move on to wide receiver. Of course, you've got Osiris Mitchell, Jaden Walley, a couple names coming back to head up the wide receiver corps.
Yeah, Jaden Walley is someone who he was, once again, the three guys I've mentioned so far, all true freshmen last year. Jaden Walley, another true freshman from last year. He's sort of towards the second half of the season, he burst on the scene as Mississippi State's go-to receiving threat. I mean, he had 52 receptions for 718 yards and 2 touchdowns in 2020. But if you look at the last 5 games of the season, 547 of those yards and 2 touchdowns came in those last 5 games. I believe he had something along the lines of 180 receiving yards. It's a whole mess. So he's someone who, going into 2020, no one really expected him to be a massive threat as a true freshman, and then he ended up being the #1 receiving playmaker on the team for Mississippi State. So in terms of the receiving core, all eyes, even though he's just going to be, I guess, technically a freshman again, since, I guess the additional year of eligibility, but only being a second-year guy, not a veteran, all eyes are going to be on him. It'll be interesting to see how he performs next season. Some other guys coming back. Malik Heath is someone who was a junior last season out of JUCO. He'll be coming back. He was another main contributor in the receiving game with 37 receptions and 307 yards. Austin Williams is someone who would be a senior this coming year, I guess, a junior. That's going to be something that's going to mess with my mind, or those classes. He had 43 receptions, 3 touchdowns last season. And then in sort of a wild card name, he didn't get a lot of production last season, but he showed real potential towards the end of the year, and that's Tulu Griffin. He was another freshman last season. He only got a handful of receptions a year ago, but against Tulsa in the bowl game, he was Mississippi State's kick returner. And he had 4 kick returns for 138 yards. He had a touchdown that was called back on, I'm not a coach, so I won't get fined, on a pretty bad penalty, a pretty bad holding call, I'll just say that. That took away that touchdown. And he also had 2 receptions and a touchdown in that bowl game against Tulsa. So Tulu Griffin's another name who I think, despite the lack of production in 2020, showed enough potential in that game against Tulsa to really come on the scene potentially as a receiving star for Mississippi State. And 2 names in the incoming signing class. I mentioned Jaden Walley, true freshman last year, and Tulu Griffin was another true freshman. Theodore Knox and Antonio Harmon are 2 players who could make an immediate impact in the receiving game for State coming up this season. So those are the main receiving threats, led by Jaden Walley, that people should look forward to in 2021.
Harmon in-state out of Kosciuszko, and Knox out of Texas. Both are 4-stars. And again, as Daniel says, pretty highly rated guys, 39th and 47th at their respective positions at wide receiver, despite a pretty crowded wide receiver room. Daniel Black online from Bulldog Blitz, talking up the Bulldogs at Mississippi State under Mike Leach. Year 2 coming up, and spring practice coming up in a few weeks, meaning March 18th, with the spring game about a month later on the 17th of April.